A steel sport watch that hides its GMT function through a Rattrapante? Sign me up. Hi, I'm Craig, founder of Wrist Enthusiast. Today I'm taking a look at the Parmigiani Fleurier Tonda PF GMT Rattrapante. Wow, that's a mouthful. This watch is not only a stunning steel sport watch, but also boasts some cool complications, including a GMT function, well kinda, and a Rattrapante function, well also kinda. But before I get into it, if you've been enjoying my content and want to see more of it, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe to my channel, and sign up for alerts. I've been a big fan of Parmigiani Fleurier's Tonda PF collection ever since its initial release in 2021. The Tonda PF is a great modern luxury stainless steel sport watch that I feel compares favorably with stalwarts like the Audemars Piguet Royal Oak and the Patek Philippe Nautilus. And like the Royal Oak and Nautilus, Parmigiani Fleurier has spent the 2 years since the initial release doing what you'd expect from a flagship offering from a brand, building out the collection. And one of my favorite extensions of the Tonda PF collection is the GMT Rattrapante. Since I first saw the Tonda PF GMT Rattrapante after its release at Watches and Wonders 2022, I really wanted to get my hand on one to review. I finally was able to, and I have to say, I remain just as big a fan. Guess I should probably discuss exactly what a GMT and a Rattrapante are, two complications that up until the release of this watch were never paired together. First off, GMT stands for Greenwich Mean Time, which is the standard establishment for dividing the world into its necessary time zones. And while most of the world has actually moved on to UTC, Coordinated Universal Time, much of Europe and Africa still uses GMT as a means for dividing up 24-hour time zones. The watch industry has widely adopted GMT as its standard for watches that can display multiple time zones, typically 2 or 3 simultaneously. Instead of just having a time and date, a second hour hand is added to the watch so one can read local time and home time, which makes a GMT just very useful for travelers. Now, a Rattrapante is something completely different. Rattrapante comes from the French meaning to catch up. Historically used in chronograph movements, a Rattrapante is generally an additional second hand used for the seconds function of a chronograph that can be hidden behind the watch's actual second hand when the chronograph is not in use. Here, Parmigiani Fleurier did not use a Rattrapante for a chronograph functionality, but in a GMT with the Rattrapante hand acting as a local time that hides behind the home time when not in use. So perhaps the watch isn't a Rattrapante in its historical meaning, but I'm not going to argue the point too much as it's an innovative complication with a name that fits it. The GMT hand also only operates on a 12-hour cycle, unlike the GMT you are probably most likely used to. So perhaps the GMT Rattrapante is not a Rattrapante or a GMT, at least in the typical definitions of either complication. But again, I'm not one to put up too much of a protest, as the GMT Rattrapante, there I go again using those terms, is a seriously cool and seriously stunning watch. The GMT function is quickly set by pressing the subtle pusher at 8 o'clock. With each press of the pusher, the second hour advances a single hour until the second time zone is set. This hour hand is silver in color like the minutes hand, but it leaves a second rose gold hand visible for the home time. It's important to have different color hands because otherwise it would become confusing distinguishing the local time versus the home time. To use the Rattrapante function and hide the second GMT hand, simply press the rose gold pusher fixed atop the 3 o'clock crown. Setting the GMT could not be any easier. The Tonda PF is known for its subtle and simple elegance. The blue dial has an intricate woven pattern, but beyond the steel-colored indices and hour track, there's only the Parmigiani Fleurier logo on the dial. Some may think this makes the dial look a little unbalanced, but I for one really like the sterile look. The dial has enough detail in the pattern to make up for any thoughts of lack of balance. It seems to me that making the watch a 12-hour GMT was an aesthetically driven decision. All Tonda PFs I have seen have a finely fluted bezel. If Parmigiani wanted to have a typical 24-hour GMT track, they would have had to really include the appropriate GMT bezel. It's still easy to quickly tell the time on both hour hands without having to do any of that back-of-the-hand math. Plus, the fluted platinum bezel is really nice, so I'm glad the brand didn't ditch it for this watch. The watch comes on a beautifully integrated stainless steel bracelet, perhaps one of the best attempts at an integrated bracelet I've seen recently. It's a 3-link bracelet with the outer link stepped and the outside of the outer link polished and the inside brushed. It's very well done, and the bracelet flows seamlessly from the case. It's also very comfortable, but the lack of any micro adjustment makes the watch either just a little bit too tight or a little bit too loose on my wrist. And this seems to be a problem with almost all luxury steel sport watches. As I've come to expect from Parmigiani Fleurier, the in-house caliber PF051 movement is simply stunning. It's a pretty thin 4.9 millimeters thick due to its 22 karat gold micro rotor. The movement operates at 3 Hz and has a 48-hour power reserve. Because of the micro rotor and the thinness of the movement, the watch's case is relatively thin at 10.7 millimeters. This, along with the 40 millimeter case size, means that it sits comfortably on the wrist and you can slide it easily under your cuff. Overall, the Parmigiani Fleurier Tonda GMT Rattrapante is a nice entrance into the stainless steel sport watch space, especially for someone that wants some complications that can be easily hidden away to dress up the watch when needed. I know it might not be either a GMT or a Rattrapante in the standard definition of the complications, but I'll let that slide, because what else would you call it? You can pick up the Tonda GMT Rattrapante in stainless steel for $29,500. So that's my review of the Parmigiani Fleurier Tonda GMT Rattrapante. Let me know your thoughts on the watch in the comments below. Do you have any issues with it being called a GMT or a Rattrapante? And don't forget to give this video a like and subscribe to my channel. Your support is always appreciated. Once again, I'm Craig Carger, and thanks for watching.